Hey everyone, welcome to this Wednesday's reflection. Today I'm talking about comfort food. If you saw the title of this video, it's Is Ramen Spiritual? This is a topic I covered on an episode of my podcast, The Church Nerd, and I'll link to that in the description. But I was reminded of the same themes and feelings that prompted that episode earlier this week. So I guess I'll just ask, what is your favorite comfort food? Well, when I was a little kid, it was mashed potatoes with hot dog cut up into it. And by itself, it's actually kind of boring. It's bland. But as a kid, I loved it. And when I was like sick or home for school for a day or wanted a special treat, I got mashed potato with hot dog cut up into it. And even today, sometimes when either my family is out of town and I'm home by myself, or maybe if I'm feeling sick and want something comforting, I will fix the mashed potatoes with hot dog cut up into it for myself. Now, as an adult, I may dress it up a little bit and add some spices or a pat or two of butter, maybe just an extra pinch of salt just to kind of give it a little extra edge. You know, I might char the hot dog just to bring it up to a little bit higher level. But I secretly love this odd little plate of food. But why do I wait until I'm alone to make hot dog and mashed potatoes? Well, maybe it's because I'm a little ashamed of liking it, because it's an awkward little dish. Perhaps because I know it really doesn't taste that good on its own. It's kind of simplistic. Maybe because I relate that meal to that special time in my childhood that's completely mine. Or you might relate it to that time in childhood that is completely yours. That time before you sprint into adolescence, that time before you care about what other people thought of you so desperately, and all of that becomes crippling. This was just simple childhood love of a simple childhood meal. That's the time that I hang on to mashed potatoes with hot dog is the time when I also had a cigar box full of treasures that I kept, rocks from the playground, or a kush ball that my grandfather had given me, a Matchbox car, all those little pocket things that kids keep and bring out every once in a while to admire. That is the same kind of space wherein I keep my love of mashed potatoes with hot dog cut up into it. It's a part of my box of treasures. So as I was sitting here at my desk a few days ago, trying to think about what I was going to say, searching for a topic to share, I reached for one of my emergency backup meals because it was getting lunchtime and I was hungry. I reached for a packet of ramen. And so I tell you that mashed potato story to segue into ramen. As I was eating this brick of ramen and feeling a little guilty because, ramen is something we leave behind in college. It's really not that upscale. Not to mention you really shouldn't just be eating a bowl of straight carbs, but anyway. I was justifying I was justifying my meal to the part of myself that knows better, and I began to think about the culture behind ramen, the generations, the lifetimes that have shared these traditional noodles with the next group of people to follow. And I'm not Asian. I cannot claim that heritage. But as an honest lover of various Asian cuisines, I realized that I had taken a simple childish love for 25-cent dorm room ramen and let it inform who I grew and was shaped into over the next 20 years. Once I finished college, I started shopping in Asian grocery stores. I began preparing dishes for myself. I began trying much more exciting and exotic things. I would seek out restaurants that touted a signature ramen bowl or had a ramen night one night a week. I would go to Vietnamese restaurants and get pho or pho. Thai restaurants, I would get pork bun or spicy Korean ramen. All of these dishes just warm my heart as well as warming my belly. And so ramen for me is the perfect late night snack or the perfect midday quick lunch when you don't feel like going out and getting something. It's warm, it's savory, and it's filling. For others, your ramen might be a bowl of cereal. Or for those with a sweet tooth, it might be maybe some ice cream or a couple of Reese's peanut butter cups. Who knows? For you, it is what it is. So the question still remains, is ramen spiritual? Well, for me, it is. Each time I make it, I think of it as a gift to be given. I anticipate the joy of the steamy broth, the warm slurp of the noodles, the steamy broth, the feel of the wooden chopsticks at my fingertips. And when I defeat my late night hunger or my midday need for lunch with this bowl of instant gratification set before me, I'm grateful that I was thoughtful enough to give myself this treat. Now, when I do prepare ramen for others, especially for my wife, I take extra care to ditch conveniences like the microwave and I cook it over a gas top stove. I usually cut fresh onions and other vegetables, put in some proteins, maybe some smoked pork or some rib meat that I made earlier in the week, a soft-boiled duck egg, additional spices or flavors. More than anything, I want the broth to be perfect. Not too concentrated, but also not too dilute. I want the broth to just elevate the bowl. Anyone who fancies a serious bowl of pho will tell you it is all about the broth. So when I make ramen for others, I want it to be more than just cheap noodle soup. I want it to be more than just something they remembered from their dorm room. I want the joy and love that I have in eating it to come out in the food that they are consuming. I want to express my love for them in a bowl of food. And I'm not a ramen chef. I use the prepackaged little flavor bits. I'm not up at 5 in the morning making a tonkatsu broth out of pork bones. I'm not staying up late to strain a fish stock. Perhaps I will save that kind of intense dedication for a midlife crisis down the road, but right now I'm just happy with the little instant shaky packets. I will say my wife has given me a subscription to Japan Crate, which is a subscription service that sends you really fancy ramens each month, and those have really elevated my game, but at the same time, I'm still eating instant packaged things. Now, I say ramen is spiritual because the process that goes into making it, it has a intentionality to it. It has ritual. Whether it is a quick midnight snack or a properly orchestrated meal shared with loved ones, each step of preparing the ramen is done with complete attention to where I am and what I am doing. Savoring those sights and smells, stirring and lifting and working the flavors together into the bowl, laying the toppings just so, cutting the egg and opening up and letting it sit just perfect, sprinkling the seasoning just right, making it picture perfect, a delight for the eyes as well as for the stomach. Now, of course, the same love and poetry could be said for any favorite meal you prepare. And so I will say that the same kind of love is put into meals that you prepare if you choose to do so. Because making your favorite food creates an intentional rhythm, a familiar pace, that takes us out of our day or our week at large and instead places us firmly into the one-to-one time scale of the cooking and the preparation. It is, in essence, a meditation, not just with closed eyes and a quieted mind and an attention to your breath. Instead, it is a meditation of your hands in your work on the stove or on the countertop. For every minute you cook is a minute that you are hopefully aware and mindful of yourself in the kitchen. The universe in a bowl. It is often said by chefs and writers that ramen is the universe in a bowl. It contains a balance of life from the mountains, from the land, from the sea, and from the air, tied together into a single or a double broth. The flavored oil or the samplings of fatty pork, maybe the fresh onion or the eggs, which are all up to the cook, the kinds of ingredients you decide to add into your ramen, all come together with these clean noodles and make this bowl a fresh and unique creation. There are different ramen broths, whether it's a labor-inducing, complicated broth or the simplicity and clarity of a Japanese clear-based chicken broth, a salty seafood broth with bonito flakes and seaweed, or maybe a cloudy, creamy pork bone broth. Each different kind has its complexity that reaches you exactly where you are on any given day. And perhaps I am lucky. America is benefiting from a large surge in ramen popularity, and the offerings that restaurants are there to give is pretty impressive, even here in Mississippi. The complex food that we all came to know in a dorm room has graduated far beyond what we remember. Recently, I discovered Korean ramen, which is spicy by nature, but also brings more than just heat. It is robust and creamy and wholly satisfying. And so maybe I am lucky that the food I have always loved is now being embraced by the wider culture and treated very seriously. So I would have never have learned as much as I have or been able to experience the foods that I love if it were not for the work of cooks and chefs all around me bringing creativity literally to the table. So ramen may not speak to you in the same way it speaks to me. So what is your comfort food? What tells the story of your experience? Whatever your favorite food, take time to think about it. Take time to bring up some old favorite from your childhood or yesteryear. And as you're making it, turn off all distraction. Try to do it maybe even by yourself with no family or friends to distract you. And be there one-to-one with your time in the kitchen. I think you'll find that it does you some good and helps you tune into that idea of intentionality. Well, I hope this small offering has brought you some clarity or insight for your day. If you want to talk more ramen with me, I'm happy to do so, or any other Asian cuisine. But other than that, thank you for being with me at this time. This reflection has come from a similar episode that I did for my podcast a couple years ago. If you'd like to check that out, please feel free to click the link in the description. Thank you for letting me come and share part of this day with you. And as always, dear friends, God bless.